Welcome to this recording. I'm just sharing from my own personal experience right now, and this is something. It's literally 8 a.m. or half 8 in the morning here, and it's suddenly like a realization of many things that came through the dream space last night, and I feel that it's important to share while these ideas are fresh and working through my own consciousness. It feels important to share. And I'm going to try and make this as coherent as possible, but it's also coming from a place of these are just my workings right now. And I'm going to try and make this into a more concise, into a more concise and digestible something as I move through. It feels very important that this might be actually a big part of my path, which I had inclinations to it before. But now it feels very apparent that this is something that I need to talk about with people and to bring it into more awareness. So I'll just give you a bit of background. Last night, obviously, I go into the dream space, and for me personally, dreams are very important to me, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. But I'm someone who has always been able to have my dreams and see my dreams and to write about my dreams. They're also a place of inspiration, so I recognize that not everybody has such a memory of their dreams. You might wake up and they're gone. You might remember little pieces. But for me, they've always been very vivid, it's like watching a film, and I wake up and most of the time I remember pretty much all of the messages, the symbols, everything like that. So last night I'm having this dream where I'm on I'm cycling to some place and I see a restaurant. It's a Greek restaurant and I love Greek food. So I decide to go in there. And I go in there and I order a souvlaki. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, which is one of my favorite Greek dishes. And I ask them I want to take it away. And so they're okay. But I notice that this kitchen, this restaurant is really small and quite cramped, and it's really hot in there, like overly hot. And then I noticed the staff, and the staff look really weird. They're kind of gelatinous and they look really red, almost like, radiation type of energy. And I'm looking at them and thinking, you guys need a break. And I ask one of the young workers there, I say, do you ever get time off? And he says, no, we're in here constantly. We're constantly working. We very rarely get time off. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I tell him, well, if I was your boss, one of the first things I would do is make sure that all of you have time off and you're allowed to leave this restaurant because it's not healthy for you to be in here all the time. And he kind of looks at me a bit funny as if like, oh yeah, well, that won't happen. Um, and then, I'm waiting for my order and they get it mixed up. I can't exactly remember why they got it mixed up, but it's not right. So I go back in and I say, I really need this by 9 o'clock. And I look at my watch and I say, it's like 10 to 9. Are you going to be able to do this in that time? And they're a bit like chaotic and frantic, but they're saying, we can probably get it done for you. And so I'm like, okay. And then I'm just sat there waiting again in the restaurant and I'm looking around and I see all these staff members still. And I just think, gosh, they look so strange and unhealthy. And just like I say, they had this sort of gelatinous texture to their skin. And they, if you poked them, they would kind of wobble. And, I had this just thought of like the way they're working is just not healthy. Like you can't be contained in here all the time. From what the guy was saying, they were working flat out 7 days a week. They never got a break. So the next part of the dream was I got my meal and I'm starting to leave the restaurant, but then I noticed there's some sort of crowd of these staff workers, and they're gathered around this little dog, this little border collie dog, which, as you know, if you know me, I have a little border collie puppy. And they were crowded around him saying that he was having a fit. He was having a fit, and you could see that he was convulsing. And I said, "You need to call an ambulance. We need to call an ambulance." And I said that if we don't get an ambulance, this dog is really suffering. And they said, "No, no, we don't want to get an ambulance because if we get an ambulance, they're going to take him away." They were really concerned that they were going to take him away, but I said he's suffering, and if he continues in this state, um, if he continues in this state, like he's in a living nightmare. And they were just, they kind of just looked at me blankly as if to say, well, we're okay with that. And I remember like looking down at the dog, and touched his, I kind of touched his center point where his third eye would be, and I put some pressure there. I don't know why, but that's what I did. And he started to not convulse as much. So then I'm so then I can't remember what happened in that interim, but I remember just feeling really frustrated and angry that these people were okay with potentially this dog just being in a state of constant convulsions just because they wanted to keep him around. And I walked off what we were now on a bus, and I walked off this bus, and as I did, another guy was following me as one of the staff members, and I actually spat out loads of like congealed blood from my tongue. I spat it out onto the floor, and it was just stuck, stagnant. It wasn't like free flowing blood. It was just really almost like clots. And I remember looking at that thinking, oh gosh, like I don't know why that's happening, but it is. So, excuse me. So that was my dream. And I actually immediately woke up. Sometimes this happens when I have a dream that has a deep meaning that I need to almost decode straight away and not forget. I wake up. So this could have been, it was still dark, could have been 3, 4 in the morning. And I was just lying there for about half an hour, just thinking about this dream because it was really visceral. Like I had a lot of emotional feelings about it, and it made me feel slightly like weird and odd. And as I was drifting in and out of my thoughts, it came to me that this dream was representing, so the staff members were representing something in my body that has been overworking so hard to the point where they're almost radiated, they're exhausted, and they look weird. Now, I don't know exactly what that specific thing is representing, whether it's like blood cells or for me, I'm thinking of like capillaries, those little kind of nodules that move around. Not capillaries, sorry. Um, like the things on the tongue that look kind of rounded. If you look under a microscope, they would look like these sort of slow moving jelly like things. So I'm thinking of that. Um, but the main takeaway I got whilst I was thinking about this was that the blood in my system is stagnant. And that is one of the issues that I'm having right now. And if I look at different areas in my body and the things that I'm noticing, especially like with my tongue and the slowness that I'm experiencing, the fatigue, I'm somebody that has lived pretty much all my life in a state of chronic stress and anxiety. I've also had many periods of depression. I've had other uh, bodily things, symptoms, physical manifestations that have come too. I can honestly tell you in this lifetime, there's not been a long period of time where I've felt so good in myself, like so energized and full of life. Lately in the last few years, I have had more small doses of it, but it's not a consistent thing. It's almost like I've just been so chronically stressed, all this built up energy. I just haven't ever felt, wow, I feel so good today, you know? And this is something that I obviously have to work on because the message then that I also got in that place after I'd woken up, I heard that my dog is really important to me and he is actually helping me to move in one case, but he has come into this life to help me to move more, to get outside, to be in nature, to play with him. He's almost like a part of my psyche has been materialized because I will be honest with you, 6 months ago, before he came, I was having a very isolated and sedentary life. I was feeling quite depressed, very low. And yes, Rocco did bring in some more stress into my life because having a puppy is stressful, but it's building resilience in me to handle those stressful moments and to know that I can do that. But the main thing I heard was that he is here to help me to move and to bring, because the thing is with me, I know myself. I need to be motivated by something to kind of do that, you know. I do have good willpower, but when it came to myself, I've let that slide. But when it comes to another being, such as an animal, my consciousness knows I love animals and I would do anything to see them grow and to nurture them and to give them love. But it's I'm giving love to myself. So yeah, I basically heard that Rocco, that's why Rocco has come to me and come into my life because I needed that motivation to actually get up in the morning, go outside, be in the sun. You know, we go for walks. We go for walks 3 times a day. I play frisbee with him. We play ball together. You know, we run around the garden. And again, I didn't recognize, but he's always, yeah, he has his nap times, but in the when he's awake, he's like, come on, let's play, let's play. And I was like, for goodness sakes, I'm exhausted. And you know, that can be true as well because having him, um, I'm not getting as much sleep as I used to get, and he does require a lot of attention because he's just a puppy, you know, you have to keep an eye on him basically all the time. But but yeah, I was told that he is much needed in my life right now because I was considering whether I was doing right by him and whether I should actually find another home for him because I was concerned that I was just feeling so tired and exhausted that I didn't have the energy to give to him. But it's not about him, it's about me. It's about I need to I need to shift gears within myself to heal basically. And the message I got was that if I don't do these things now, that my health will decline. Um, and I wasn't given any further information on that, but it was enough to be like, oh shit, okay, this is serious. You know, I need to really con consistently do these things that I know I need to do and to just move through this because if my life up to this date has just been a complete pile of stress within myself, then that's not going to be good for the bodily systems. And that's why I experience so many things, physical manifestations in this life, you know? So that's an example of what our subconscious is trying to tell us. Our bodies are physical manifestations. If we get some sort of symptom, it's a physical manifestation of some emotional issue that is within ourselves that we haven't dealt with, and our body is signaling, hey, I need you to look at this. So it's really important to begin to recognize and get to the root cause of physical issues that you might be experiencing. And for me, like I said, I'm lucky in a sense that my dreams are always on point and I can rely on the information in there to translate what's going on internally. So, today we see a lot of, especially the older generations, especially where I live, are on a lot of medications for all sorts of dis-ease. And for me, that's just signaling a generation of people who weren't able to voice their needs, weren't able to speak about how they were feeling, emotions, and was so constricted here in Ireland. Like nobody spoke about, oh, you're feeling low. No one would even talk about that. You're depressed. You wouldn't talk about it. Like, no freaking way. It was like seen as weakness. You were seen as lazy. You were seen as just not able to handle life. Whereas here we just get through it. We just keep going. We just grind ourselves. And every day is like hustle, work, hustle, work. And there's almost like this badge of honor to be like, yeah, I can do this in this way. And I'm like, but it's all bullshit, because underneath people are hurting and they're in pain and they have these emotional issues that they've never spoken about. And that is where we get the physical manifestation of your emotional self. So the thing that I want to get across today, I'm going to obviously explore this in much more detail because there's more that needs to be shared. But if you have physical symptoms in your body, there is some emotional wave that is signaling to you that you haven't resolved something or there's something that needs to be resolved in your system. I will give you another example that came to me this morning on the rising, when I awoke. So since I was about 8 years old, I've had psoriasis, chronic psoriasis. Sometimes in my life, it was, manageable, just a little bit on my arms, on my legs. Tended to always have it in the scalp, which obviously is hidden by my hair. Never really got it on my face, luckily, but I would have flares throughout life. And that was normally when I was super, super stressed. There was one period in my life where it was probably the most stressful time I've ever experienced. I was going through a very intense breakup from a very toxic relationship. I didn't know where I was going to live. I had nowhere to live at the time because I was breaking up with this person. This person was basically texting and meeting other people behind my back. So big, big betrayal to me because I'm very loyal. Um, yeah, it was a very manipulative, toxic relationship. I also had my part in it. I wasn't a complete angel in that because I kind of twisted into something. Yeah, it was just a horrible time in my life. I was working a job and I was drinking heavily as well and smoking also. So all of these things and eating just horribly, just not junk food. I've never really been, but just not eating, or drinking really high caffeine sugary drinks just to get me through the day, and then I wouldn't eat. I was still having my issues around body weight, so I was not dyslexic. I was bulimic at this time as well. So, and I was in a chronic state of anxiety, constantly anxious. So you can imagine this energetic field of absolute pure chaos inside of my body. My mental space, my emotional space, my physical space, everything was just almost so many breaking points. I had so many breaking points. I remember even just walking to work and I would just burst into tears in the middle of Cardiff, walking down the main street of Cardiff City, crying my eyes out. And I didn't even think of anyone around me. I just didn't care because I was so emotionally spent. Physical breaking point, mental breaking point, every freaking thing. And my skin was red raw to the point where in work I used to we used to have to wear dresses. Um, and you could wear tights and you could wear like a cardigan type of thing if you got cold in the shop. And I had the thickest tights, but you could still see the red rawness of my skin. It was the worst I think I've ever had psoriasis. And my arms were just covered. I was just red raw. I put in creams on and everything, and it was so intensely painful. And so this is like a physical manifestation of the energy that was being carried within myself, showing through my skin. And to me, it's like my skin is saying, I need help. I need support. I need to be seen. I was completely dismissing and living a lifestyle that was so unhealthy to me in every level. And my body was screaming, see me, see me. You need to see me. And at that age, I was about 25. I didn't know the stuff that I know now about the body. And, I still just thought psoriasis was less like this condition that it might not ever go away because that's what the doctors used to say, there's no cure for psoriasis and all this shite. Um, so, I just thought this is it kind of thing. And I didn't, at that age, I wasn't looking for the answers. I was just living so deeply in the physical story that I found myself in that I wouldn't even look for, I might go to the doctor and ask for some steroid cream and stuff like that, but that's as far as I would take it. And you just think that all that energy that was inside of me that was screaming at me, my body was literally screaming at me for attention. And so I think back to my childhood when the psoriasis showed up. And again, I was feeling very like I wasn't seen, like the people around me weren't seeing me. I felt very invisible. So look, my skin has materialized something to say, I am visible. You can see me. But even though on the inside, so on the outside, I might at that point blamed my external factors. It's because of my parents' separation. It's because of this, that, and the other. And yes, those play a part. But in my internal system, there's something in me that is not seeing me at the root. The root, I'm not seeing myself. So therefore, that's reflected outside. That's reflected in the things that are happening outside. And so everything internal is reflected outside. So any issue that you're having, we as humans tend to blame it's because of this person, it's because of that person. These belief systems somewhere get crystallized in our system. And when they become more compounded, so if you experience rejection as a child, or if you experienced neglect as a child, there might have been some sort of belief system that was created early in life, and then you really took a hold of that. And the more gravity and weight is given to it because your external now is reflecting that belief system, the harder, the more crystallized this belief becomes in your body. And you literally broadcast that. So you're broadcasting this belief system. So the people outside of you are neglecting you because guess what? You're neglecting yourself. This is the first point of call. It's not something outside, it's always within. It always starts from within. So you have to look at the map of yourself, of your psyche, of the symptoms that are materializing in your life and begin to understand what is your body telling you? What is it screaming at you? What is it signaling to you? And begin to decode that and begin to sit with yourself and recognize where these patterns began and how you can uncrystallize those to liberate yourself and liberate that stuck energy. So if we crystallize in our energy system, that energy is just a stuck pocket. It's just trapped and it's broadcasting this frequency, this signal that then is reflected outside of us. So we have to unblock and release these crystallized beliefs that lie within our bodily systems. If you think about all the organs, if there's some sort of issue you're having with your lungs, your pancreas, all of this kind of stuff, look to what the function is of those organs. What is their job? What is their role? Because that's going to help you to understand why in that particular area there's a manifestation of some disease. So, yeah, I hope this is making sense because I know, like I said, I just wanted to record this and share it as it is now. But I obviously feel that there's more that I can explore and add to this. Um, but yeah, it's just so important to start to work with your body and recognize that all of these things that we see, it's all emotional issues that we haven't dealt with that remain stuck in our system. And the only way to heal that is to go inside of yourself and see where those thought forms were created and basically collapse them and bring them back to love. Because with my skin, the ironic thing was I felt as a child then that I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want eyes on me. I wanted to hide because I felt so afraid of the world. Yet my skin was telling a different story. My skin was saying, I need to be seen. I need to be cared for. I need to be held. But as a human, I saw my skin trying to just expose me because I got bullied quite a lot in school because of my skin. But again, it was just pointing me back to myself because I wasn't paying attention to me and my needs and taking care of myself, even as a child. And there's onus on caregivers and things around us too to pick up on those things. But unfortunately, another issue with our world and the way we've been raised is that people are so stressed and so busy with their own things that they've got to do that this sort of emotional, more in-depth introspection and reflection isn't picked up on. And that's just because we've had generations of people who just weren't allowed to speak about their emotions, weren't allowed to share from the heart, were told that they were too sensitive or weak, all this rubbish basically. And the earth is a mirror example of that. So things that are happening in the earth in terms of, the ecological systems that might be collapsing, the rivers, the places of pollution, all these things. We are a part of earth and earth is a part of us, okay? So the things that we do to ourselves show us outwardly in the earth also because we're a living biosystem. We're a living system within a system. And that system is always going to reflect the consciousness of the beings that are in that system. So we see the destruction. We see like the Great Barrier Reef being bleached and collapsing. We see animal species going extinct. We are connected so much to this frequency, to this sphere around us. And if we're not looking after ourselves and healing our bodies, the earth is also reflecting that. So it all starts with us. It all starts with taking responsibility and accountability for yourself. And the more each of us do that, the more everything changes around us. It's not just about you, it's about all of us. We all have to do our part here. And this is why I speak this message, because this message needs to move and needs to awaken people to the idea of nothing is random. Dreams aren't random. The things that happen in your body, it's not random. It's all signals, it's all frequency. It's showing you something. And the more that we can tune into this and recognize the patterns and heal it inside of ourselves, the more we can heal the earth, and the animals and the crystal kingdom, all of it, it's all working with us. But we're only ever going to project that which is internalized. And if we're in a state of chaos, if we're in a state of constant fear, of stress, then that's what we're going to see. So that's just what I want to say today. And yeah, watch this space because something tells me I'm going to be speaking a lot more about this and sharing, sharing the voice of the earth as well, because there is no need for us to think that the destruction of earth is inevitable, the AI takeover is inevitable. No, we have the power to choose, but it starts with us. And it starts with us really waking up and taking radical accountability of who we are and our place in the world. Because if we don't do that, then yeah, we'll see the end. It doesn't have to be the end. So thank you all for listening. And yeah, if you have any reflections or questions or anything, I'm still just moving through this myself. And what I'm speaking about right now might change slightly. I don't know. It might not be the full truth, it might just be just what the workings of my consciousness are in this now moment from my experiences. But we're here to expand on this and to find more of the key codes in order to bring healing to this, to ourselves and to earth and to everything beyond. So yeah, thanks, and I'll see you soon.